2026 zoning board meeting of adjustment. Just a note here, due to the limited number of Board of Adjustment members in attendance, applicants with public hearings tonight have the opportunity to postpone consideration of their application to the next meeting when 6 or more members are present to vote. If they choose to move forward with their hearing at tonight's meeting, please remember that 4 affirmative votes are needed to grant a variance or special exception. Each applicant will be given 15 minutes for presentation. If more time is needed, please request more time at the beginning of the presentation. Members of the public will have 5 minutes each to present
Recording in progress.
comments. During this time, please address all comments to the board. Okay, and we'll consider taking items 2B and 2D postponements out of order.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, okay, then we need a motion to suspend the rules to take items 2B and D out of order.
So moved. Sure.
Second.
Okay.
Whatever.
Then,
I'm supposed to do.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so moving on, the first order,
Then you want to have them vote on the postponement.
okay, so we just suspended the rules, so now we're taking,
So I would read them into the record and then
okay.
vote separately.
So, items 2B, we're going to postpone to April the request of William and Virginia Osborne, owners for property located at 133 Miller Ave, whereas relief is needed to demolish the existing one-story garage and construct a new two-story attached garage, which requires the following. 1, variance from section 10.521 to allow a 6-foot rear yard where 20 feet is required, and B, a 3-foot left side yard where 10 feet is required. Said property is located on Assessor Map 129, Lot 26, and lies within the General Residence A district.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we grant the request for postponement of item 2B.
Second.
Any discussion?
As you pointed out, we only have 5 members this evening. Requires 4 to get request granted. That's an 80% grade. That's not all that easy to get. So, as per usual standard, we will allow them to defer.
Okay. So we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm aye as well. Okay, so moving on to items 2D, the request to postpone the request of John C. and Janice D. Carpenter, owners for property located at 614 Broad Street, whereas relief is needed to construct a front porch and rear addition to the primary dwelling, to demolish the existing detached garage and construct a new 2-story garage with accessory dwelling unit above, which requires the following. 1, variance from section 10.521 to allow a 0.5-foot rear yard where 20 feet is required. B, 2.5-foot left side yard where 10 feet is required. And C, 34% building coverage where 25% is the maximum. Said property is located on Assessor Map 221, Lot 54, and lies within the General Residence A district.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to postpone till the April meeting.
Okay, a second? Mr. Rossi seconded that, so we'll take any discussion?
It's a simple request, given the makeup of the board.
Okay. All right, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay. All right, so now we're moving on to the first order of business, which is our old business. We have, for 238 Austin Street, a rehearing request. There's no public comment being taken. It's not a public hearing, so we'll evaluate the information provided, and we can vote to grant or deny the application, or we could stay the order pending further consideration.
Recusal.
And Mr. Rossi will be recused on this vote. Okay, so any thoughts from? Do I have to make any other?
Oh, does it need to be read in?
Okay, yes. Does it?
I don't know.
In the staff memo,
Okay.
there is a description that you can read in.
Oh, yeah, so let me move forward to there. Okay, under item 1, old business A, the request of John W. Mayer, Deborah D. Mayer, John Raganese, Linda Schmidt, Evan Baker, Laura Stewart, Keith Smith, and Cindy Smith for property located at 238 Austin Street to rehear the granted variance from the February 18th, 2026 BOA meeting.
Mr. Chair, I wonder if this could be one of the ones where we have a little bit of discussion before anybody makes a motion. And the reason I ask that is how the other board members feel will very much affect how I might vote.
Yes, I think we can discuss before the motion. Mr. Graham?
Yeah, I guess towards that end, I guess before we get too far into the discussion, I mean, our requirement this evening is to take some kind of action on this, noting that we only have 4 board members. Our rules, section 6, item 6 indicates that we require a minimum of 3 affirmative votes, a majority, a minimum 3 affirmative votes to grant the appeal. I guess my thought is that, and in addition, we only got the appeal sent out to the board yesterday around early afternoon, and then we only got the information on the original property owner's rebuttal shortly before noontime today. It's not a lot of time to take in what's a fair amount of information, I guess. Although I did have a chance to review it all, and I could be prepared to provide further thoughts on it, I think it might be more fair if we took an action to postpone consideration until our next meeting in April.
Okay, yep. Any other?
I agree with what Mr. Riom said. I think this comes very last minute. We don't have a full board as opposed to the initial request. Yeah, I'd be very much in favor in postponing it until the April meeting, the first April meeting.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan, any thoughts?
There may be a problem with that in that, the statute gives the city a certain amount of time to respond to a request for a rehearing. And that's why it got put on tonight.
Yeah. And taking action tonight will be sufficient to meet that 30-day period in the statute.
An action could include staying, making a decision.
Right, yep.
Yes.
That's fine.
And yeah, I'll just share, I did have a chance to review the material, although it definitely was more of a last minute situation, so it makes sense to me that if we wanted to proceed in that direction of staying the order, which is still taking an action, and then we'll continue it until the next meeting if that is decided.
I guess towards that end, Mr. Chair, and I would make a motion that we stay making of a decision on the request for rehearing until our regularly scheduled April meeting.
Okay, if I can get a second, okay.
And just to reiterate, again, this is a lot of information, a lot of important information. I think it behooves the board to consider it carefully. Additionally, we're hobbled a bit with, the nature of having a short board with another recusal here, making it even more deleterious in terms of the number of board members actually considering this important request for rehearing. So I think with both of those things in mind, taking the additional time to deliberate over the information and giving the board an opportunity to have more voting members is the logical course.
Okay, does the second have anything to add?
Mr. Riom said it very well. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll take a vote. We'll start with Attorney Sullivan.
Yes.
Yes, a yes. Mr. Rayum,
Yes.
Mr. Mannel?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. So the motion passes to stay the order until the next meeting. Okay. Mr. Rossi's returning. Okay. Moving on to new business, item 2A, the request of Gregory Sheave and Diane Lamprey, owners for property located at 893 Woodbury Avenue, whereas relief is needed to construct a 168 square foot addition to the rear of the structure, which requires the following. 1, variance from section 10.521 to allow a 27.5 foot rear yard where 30 feet are required, and B, 23% building coverage where 20% is the maximum allowed. Said property is located on Assessor Map 219, Lot 36, and lies within the Single Residence B District. If there's anyone here to speak tonight, identify yourself and your address.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Greg Shive, 893 Woodbury Ave, and we are requesting a variance adjustment for the setback and the lot coverage for a 12 by 14 addition to the back of the house. I'm just going to read the criteria here. First, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. We believe that the improvements to the existing property, which was originally built in 1951, do not create a threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. In item 2, the spirit of the ordinance will be observed. The project will maintain the essential character of the neighborhood, since the expansion is modest in nature and consistent with the existing architectural details. The project does not pose any hazard to the public or adjacent properties. Criteria 3 is the substantial justice will be done. The proposed property provides future reasonable use of the property for years to come. There will be no detriment to the property values in the vicinity or change in the essential character of the area. And number 4, the value of the surrounding properties will not be diminished. The proposed addition will have no negative impact on the essential character of the home and therefore the neighborhood. And there is no evidence in the proposed project that will diminish the value of the surrounding properties. And number 5, excuse me, the literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. The home is currently not suitable for aging in place and first floor living. Not granting us this variance would prevent us from living out our older age, which we're approaching, as it would not meet our needs. That's it.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Mr. Rayum?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I did not see an elevation provided with your packet. Lots of plans, but no elevation. Is this 12 by 14 addition a one-story?
It is. It's
high?
16 feet.
Okay.
Is what we're planning.
I mean, your whole home is essentially one story. I wasn't expecting it, but I just want to make sure it's clear. And then you did provide a photo at the very end of or towards the end of your packet.
Yep.
What is that a photo of? Is that something
It's actually ChatGPT.
Oh, okay. Is it
That
intended?
is what we intend to build.
Okay, so something that essentially looks like that.
That's right.
Okay. It's interesting that ChatGPT can generate such imagery. I thought it just did like cats with mustaches and things like that. So.
Well, it does that too.
No further questions.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No, I'll just want to comment that, Mr. Rayum, when I went out to look at the property, and I thought I knew what it was, and I drove right by, turned around, and then I pulled out the packet, and I realized what the property was, and that the photo on the website was stretched. So, yeah, it's a nice, cute little cape,
Thanks.
whereas in the photo, it looks like an enormous ranch.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Rossi?
I'm just looking for a little help on the hardship criterion. What would you say there is about your property which differentiates it from other properties in the neighborhood that I mean, because hardship is not really about whether or not the home is suitable for your desired use for aging in place, that the hardship definition that we have to work with is that there's some unique aspect of your property that basically argues in favor of granting a variance because the variance is needed due to that unique aspect of your property in order to make reasonable use of the property. So what is it about your property in particular that provides the hardship case?
Outside of like being able to enjoy first floor living.
Yeah,
and-
maybe really narrow the scope of the question. Is there anything about your property that is unique within the neighborhood?
I don't know. Is there anything unique about it?
I'm Diane Lamprey. I also live at 892 Woodbury. I would say maybe the only thing that might be is that it's smaller than most of the properties in the neighborhood. It's probably one of the smallest square foot wise in the neighborhood.
That's the sort of thing that we're looking for to support the hardship case. Okay, thank you. It's certainly smaller than the required size in this zone, so we could look at it that way. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. You may sit down, thank you. So it's still a public hearing, so we'll take public comment now. Any speakers for the application? Okay, seeing no one rise, no one online.
Nobody online.
Okay. Seeing no one rise, we'll move on to any speakers against the application. Okay, seeing no one rise, any speakers to, for, or against the application? Okay, we'll close public comment. Deliberation of the board, Mr. Rossi.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance request as presented and advertised.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Manel.
Okay, I'll go through the criteria and take it from there. So granting the variance, not being contrary to the public interest, or also observing the spirit of the ordinance. Basically, the purpose of the setbacks is to provide adequate light and space and air between adjacent properties, and that is really not a problem here. This addition will not be the farthest point back in the building structure. Really won't infringe at all on light and space for the surrounding properties. Granting the variance would do substantial justice, meaning that a loss to the homeowner, the property owner, would not be counterbalanced by a gain to the public. There is no gain to the public to deny this variance, because primarily because it involves construction of an addition outside of public view, so there's no conceivable loss to the public, and therefore if substantial justice is being done. Granting the variance would not diminish the values of surrounding properties. It seems this is a very typical addition to homes of this age, and has no reason to stimulate ideas about impacting the values of surrounding properties. It's the same usage as is currently on the property, and it's consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. Unnecessary hardship test. I think the special condition of the property is really related to the lot size. For the zoning area, it has an undersized square footage of the lot, and due to that, some relief in terms of setbacks is reasonable in order to accommodate continued residential use of the building. So that's my motion.
Okay, does the second have anything to add?
No.
Okay, we'll take a vote. We'll start with Mr. Manel.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Rayum,
Yes.
Mr. Rossi,
Yes.
Attorney Sullivan,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. The motion passes 5-0. Okay. All right, moving on to new business, item C, the request of Emily and Michael Glynn, owners for property located at 387 Richards Avenue, whereas relief is needed for the construction of a two-story addition in place of an existing deck structure, which requires the following. 1, variance from section 10.521 to allow a 4-foot left side yard where 10 feet is required. Said property is located on Assessor Map 112, Lot 17, and lies within the General Residence A. Who is here to speak on behalf?
Hi, good evening. Chris Atwood, speaking on behalf of Mike and Emily Glynn of 387 Richards Ave. All set?
Yep.
So yeah, here tonight looking for relief for the left side setback. Our clients are looking to construct an addition in place of an existing deck structure that's currently on the house. The addition would include a kitchen and living space on the first floor and a primary bedroom suite on the second floor to expand for their growing family of 6. In terms of the property itself, we plan to maintain its use as a single-family home. As I shared, we're replacing that existing rear deck structure. Other than what we're replacing, we are adding 96 square feet of footprint to the property. In terms of the variance criteria, number 1 and 2, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and the spirit of the ordinance will be observed. Granting this variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and the spirit of the ordinance will be observed for the improvements to the existing property, which was built in 1905. The proposed improvements do not conflict with the basic zoning objectives of the ordinance, nor do they create a threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. The project will maintain the essential character of the locality and neighborhood, since the expansion is modest in nature and consistent with the existing architectural details of the home and the neighboring homes. Additionally, the proposed use does not expand the existing footprint of the home in a non-conforming way. Therefore, it's reasonable to conclude that granting this variance is not contrary to the public interest, and the spirit of the ordinance will be observed. Number 3, substantial justice will be done. The benefit to the owner does not outweigh any harm to the general public. The proposed project complies with all other zoning requirements and will increase the curb value and curb appeal of the home, in turn helping to preserve the value of the surrounding properties, which takes me to number 4, that the surrounding properties value will not be diminished. The proposed project will increase the value of this home, which will help to preserve the surrounding property values. The project will have no negative impact on the essential character of the home and therefore the neighborhood, and there is no evidence that the proposed project will diminish any value of surrounding properties. And number 5, literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in necessary hardship. This existing structure is built within the side yard setback, which means that the replacement of any part of the structure in the setback would require variance under the current zoning ordinance. The dimensional requirements and expansion restrictions are to prevent overcrowding of land, promote adequate light and air, protect natural resources, and promote health and general welfare, among other reasons. Since the proposed project will maintain the existing footprint of the home within the side yard setback, there's no fair and substantial relationship between the general purpose of the ordinance and this specific application. The proposed use as a single-family home is consistent with the neighborhood and the permitted use in the zoning district. Since the proposed use is permitted, it's considered reasonable. By not granting this variance, the owner would not be able to reasonably improve their property to increase its functionality and to meet the needs of their family. Lastly, a couple notes as to why this property has any unique characteristics. It is a relatively narrow lot. There are other narrow lots on the street. There are also lots that are much wider on their same street. And I think something unique about this lot is that it's tapered in relation to the street. So a building that appears to be relatively centered at the street is going to encroach upon the side setbacks as you back up 30, 40, 50 feet, given the tapered lot lines in relation to Richards Ave. So that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you for your attention.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Mr. Rossi?
Yeah, if you could bring up page 8, please. My one concern, and it maybe is partially due to the tapered nature of the property, but as the house is extended toward the back, as you pointed out, it's just naturally kind of pinches off the left side. Does it actually reach the beginning of the structure that is on the left? The left side of the property line. No, sorry, not that page, the one with the map. This one. Yeah, if you could blow that up. The house on the left of it, I'm a little concerned about the air and light as this project would proceed and extend the back of this house towards the back of the property line, the house that's immediately to the left, how close is it going to be to that? Does it reach that, that part of the house on the left that is very close to the property line?
I'm nearsighted, so I can't see very well. Can I walk over there?
Well, it's two different colors, two
If you
different
walk
shades of.
over, please bring the microphone and don't touch the screen. Yeah.
Maybe it might be easier if you scroll up so we could just look at the silhouettes, or,
Oh, on the other one?
yeah, that's it, right. See, it just appears from that map that,
Touch the screen.
Yep.
Are you referring to the corner?
yeah, exactly. Are you gonna reach that far back, or does it stop before that?
Not quite. It's a little before that, so there'd be kind of some daylight in between. Is that on? So the existing deck structure that's not on map geo comes out just a little bit, I would say shy of the point of that building on the other side.
Okay, but yeah, the existing deck structure doesn't obstruct light and air, obviously, because it's low to the ground. But this will be a two-story addition, which is why I'm asking, it has much
That's fair.
different impact.
Thanks. Yeah, it was recording. It just doesn't amplify, but it records for the
Gotcha.
Thank you.
posterity.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? No? Okay, you can take a seat. Thank you. Okay, well, open to public hearing. Any speakers for the application? Seeing no one rise, we'll take any speakers against the application. Seeing no one rise, any speakers to, for, or against? And seeing no one rise, we'll close the public hearing and to the board to deliberate. Anybody want to discuss or make a motion? Mr. Rayom.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would move to grant the requested variance as presented and advertised.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Sullivan.
So, I mean, I share a little bit of Mr. Rossi's concern with this project. As the applicant's representative kind of said, well, really, we're just sort of replacing, the only thing that we're replacing within the setback is an existing deck. That said, this is a two-story addition. It's quite a bit of height that's being added here from essentially a deck that probably is above 18 inches, but not, super high, to suddenly now a two-story addition. That said, I mean, the actual amount of square footage that we're going into additionally into the setback, because as the applicant's representative pointed out, the house is already in the setback. The actual additional amount is not excessive in my mind. It's essentially like a polygon of, it's just 6 feet by 12 feet, something like that. It's not incredibly impactful. Certainly, what the applicant, I think, is trying to accomplish with adding more room to the kitchen is a pretty common addition that people are looking for in their homes. Once upon a time when people needed more room, they might have moved to a new home, but with the current situation that is out there, expanding an existing footprint is really the only way to accommodate some additional desired features. In this case, a larger kitchen with a sort of an eating dining area that the applicant currently doesn't have, and then looks like a bedroom suite on the second floor. Again, things that are pretty commonly looked for in more modern houses. So doing something to renovate this circa 1900-ish house to that effect, I think is a reasonable action. So, and they are not asking for any additional relief in terms of overall square footage, even though they are adding on to the total square footage slightly. It is still within the allowed for the lot as a whole. So just going through our criteria, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest, granting the variance would observe the spirit of the ordinance. So this kind of goes back to, do we think this is, within the general characteristics of the neighborhood? Certainly this sort of home pattern of, doing some extensions on the back is pretty commonly seen. If you do kind of look both at Map Geo and in the satellite view, you can see many of the surrounding homes kind of have some extensions toward the back, not entirely surprising with the way that these are sort of very narrow but somewhat deeper lots. Over the years, extending on towards the back is a pretty common. This won't really be visible from the front property line. It's going to just look like the house that has always been there. I mean, if you really stared at it, you might notice that it's a little bit longer, but it wouldn't generally be obvious. So in that sense, I think that what the applicant is asking to do is in keeping with the general characteristics of the neighborhood. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. Is there something in the public interest that says that, not allowing them to build onto that back end is more important than the benefits that the homeowner is going to get from those additional, more modern amenities to this turn of the century, prior century house? And I don't think there is anything that the general public would get out of it. Again, it's really not terribly visible. So with that, I think that it meets that criteria. Granting the variance would not diminish the values of surrounding properties. Again, this is a relatively small imposition on the setback. Yes, it's 4 feet versus 10 feet, but it's of a relatively short additional dimension. There is some structure that's currently there. This will expand on it vertically. However, it's not anything that hasn't already been there before. And so I don't see where it would negatively impact, in general, the property values in the neighborhood. And then lastly, what are some of the unique characteristics relative to the requirements of the zone? And so I do think, again, these are long, deep, relatively narrow, deep lots, which are common in the neighborhood, and it sort of has this same setup that some of the other properties do. We have a driveway on one side and the house is shoved to the other side, which is kind of how things were set up back in when this neighborhood became developed. So I think one of the things that does help this property is that characteristic does run through. And so the neighboring property, while, as Mr. Rossi asked, hey, there's some structure nearby, that structure actually appears to be a garage structure. So I think the light and air impact of this, relatively modestly sized from a square footprint addition is going to be minimal on the surrounding property. As the applicant has indicated, this is kind of at an angle. In this case here, it really isn't changing things too much. The previous amount was 4 feet. It still comes across as 4 feet, a little bit closer to the property line, but not significantly so. So with that, I don't think that, that sort of general characteristic is anything that should be counted against it. And with that, I think there is a hardship, and I recommend approval.
Okay, does the second have anything to add?
I would add a little bit. I thought that Mr. Rossi's questions were very relevant and well-founded. And had there been any evidence presented to the board, either in writing or especially in person, which raised the issues or supported the issues which he raised, I would have given it great weight, perhaps leading to a different result. But we received no such evidence, and therefore there's nothing to give weight to, and I support this motion.
Okay. Any other discussion or comments from the board? Okay, if not, we'll take a vote. We'll start with Mr. Mantle.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Rayum,
Yes.
Mr. Rossi,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, and the acting chair votes yes. The motion passes 5-0. You're approved. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
I guess before we act on that, can you just reiterate what the plan is for next week?
Next week, there is a workshop scheduled for the BOA in Conference Room A at 6 p.m. on March 31st.
Is there any topics in particular? Are board members allowed to raise topics? How should we go about doing that if we want to have discussions on certain things?
The chair has offered several topics for us to address, but we will leave some room at the end for a general Q&A back and forth if there's anything that the board wants to address in the workshop.
Okay, would be advisable for us to send those to staff ahead of time
Yeah,
if we know
if
what
you
they
could
are.
send them ahead of time, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Can we say that motion till April?
The adjournment?
Second.
Second. Okay, so we got a second. All right. So we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Meeting adjourned.